There is no doubt that Israel is in a difficult and complicated moment in her history. And as a synagogue community, I know that many of us are concerned about what is happening and what the future holds for this country we love so deeply. But I know I also find a sense of hope for the future of Israel in the outpouring of hundreds of thousands of protesters showing up in the streets of Israel, exercising their democratic rights week after week since this current Israeli administration was sworn in declaring their commitment and dedication to their democracy and to holding their government accountable to living up to the highest ideals of what Israel can and should be. At Beth Am, we recognize the complexity and diversity of views and opinions relating to Israel. Indeed, we host multiple speakers throughout the year representing a myriad views and perspectives in how we approach Israel. So it's important as Israel grapples with this complicated moment in her history to inform ourselves and learn from leaders in the conversation around Israel like Jeremy Ben-Ami, to engage with multiple points of view, even if we don't always see eye to eye. After all, one of our goals is that we continue to engage with and wrestle with Israel. It is, after all, in our name. We are Am Yisrael, a people who wrestle with God and who recognize that anything of true substance and importance isn't simple, but requires engagement, grappling, and wrestling. And it's important to note that we are a synagogue, a spiritual community that is made up of individuals that approach every facet of Jewish life and belief in myriad different ways, Israel being one of them. We are not homogeneous in our thinking about anything, really, but this is a place where we come together to be in relationship, to engage with one another, even if we might disagree with each other on certain issues, and where we gather to learn and pray and celebrate and mourn together as well. This is a place where we strive to see the best in each other and lift each other up, even if we don't always see eye to eye. And so it's my pleasure to introduce tonight's speaker, Jeremy Ben-Ami, who is the president of J Street, bringing to the role both deep experience in American politics and government and a passionate commitment to the state of Israel. Ben-Ami's family connection to Israel goes back 130 years to the first Aliyah, when his great-grandparents were among the first settlers of Petach Tikva. His grandparents were one of the founding families of Tel Aviv, and his father was an activist and leader in the Irgun, working for Israel's independence and on the rescue of European Jews before and during World War II. His political resume includes serving in the mid-90s as the deputy domestic policy advisor in the White House to President Bill Clinton, and working on several presidential and numerous state and local campaigns. He was Howard Dean's national policy director in 2004 and helped manage a mayoral campaign in New York City in 2001. For nearly 3 years in the late 1990s, Jeremy lived in Israel, where he started a consulting firm working with Israeli nonprofit organizations and politicians. He was chosen by America's weekly Jewish newspaper, The Forward, for 3 years as part of the Forward 50, their compilation of the most influential Jewish Americans. He was one of 50 People of the Decade selected by Haaretz, the influential Israeli daily newspaper, and the Jerusalem Post included him in its list of the 50 most influential Jews in the world. Are you on any lists that don't include 50 people, though? That's the question. Jeremy received a law degree from New York University and is a graduate of the School of Public and International Affairs at Princeton University. Jeremy, it's my pleasure to welcome you to our Bima tonight. I also want to point out that we'll have more opportunities for Q&A after the service at our Oneg as well. So, Jeremy, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much to Rabbi Wattenmaker. I want to thank all the clergy, in particular John Prosnett and my family go way back. I've mentioned this before when I've spoken here at your wonderful community, but John's father, Rabbi Jim Prosnett, married me and my wife babysat for John when he was a child. So thank you to Rabbi Prosnett, Rabbi Weissman, Cantor Spall. It's wonderful to be here at Beth Am. It's a tremendous honor to say a few words in front of your wonderful Congresswoman and my friend, Anna Eshoo, who is a champion in Washington. I'm sure you all know that, for all of the values that this community holds most dear. I'm really grateful to have a chance to offer a few words of Torah tonight, and look forward to the discussion at the Oneg afterwards. You can probably imagine, hearing my bio, that my training in speechifying leans a little bit more to the political than the biblical, but I will take a shot here at commentary on this week's Parashah, Nitzavim, which surfaces some very important themes that are really directly relevant to the state of the world today and to the choices that the state of Israel and the people of Israel are facing in the months and the years ahead. Our text this week tells us that Moses, in his speech to the Israelites at the end of the journey to the Promised Land, and knowing that he wouldn't join his people in the new land, laid out for the people of Israel a clear vision of the responsibilities that they would have towards themselves individually, to each other, to other people, and to the land itself. But most significantly, he makes clear that the choice of what kind of life we lead, what kind of people we will be, what kind of country the people of Israel will run, that choice lies in our own hands. The passage in Deuteronomy 30:19 says, "I call heaven and earth to witness against you this day. I have put before you life and death, blessing and curse. Choose life, that you and your offspring may live." Now, there are other faith traditions that view the human role in determining life's path differently. Some believe that outcomes are preordained. Some believe there's a higher power that is pulling the strings and that we are but the agents of a supreme being. But in Judaism, it is our choices that are our own. They are what set our life's course. And the guidelines that we use to make those choices are also clear. The Ten Commandments lay out a clear set of do's and don'ts. We are commanded to pursue justice, to love our neighbor as ourselves, and we are not to treat others as we did not want to be treated ourselves. So when the founders of the state of Israel came together 75 years ago to imagine the modern state of the Jewish people, their words in the Declaration of Independence lived up to the charge that Moses gave the Israelites 3,000 years ago, to promote, and I quote, "to promote the development of the land for all its inhabitants, to be a country based on the precepts of liberty, justice, and peace, as taught by the Hebrew prophets, to uphold the full social and political equality of all citizens without distinction based on race, creed, or sex." We as a people have rightfully taken enormous pride that as the Jewish people sought to rebuild a future out of the ashes of tragedy, they made a conscious choice not to be like the other nations from which they had been forced to flee. They would build a better nation, one that lived up to our people's ethics, and one that we all have hoped and prayed and dreamed would truly serve as a light unto the nations. Today, 75 years later, the state of Israel is at a fork in the road. It's a fateful moment of choice about what kind of nation state the Jewish people want to have. It is literally a choice for the 7 million Jews who are citizens of Israel. But it's a choice with enormous implications for all of us, for Jews worldwide, for whom the state of Israel has become an important part of Jewish identity. This national moment of choice has come to a head in 2023 thanks to the election of an Israeli government that looks to radically redefine the nature of the state and the relationship of millions of non-Jews who live under its control. At this historic fork in the road, there are two very distinct camps putting forth radically different visions for what a national homeland of the Jewish people looks like in the 21st century. On the one side, we have a nationalist camp that seeks to elevate Jewish rights over all others, to preference the Jewish nature of the state over its democracy. These desires are at the root of the assault on democracy that is taking place right now, and the effort to limit the power in particular of the Supreme Court. On the other side, we have a liberal camp that believes democracy means protecting minority rights, respecting the rule of law, and the independence of the judiciary. The difference between these camps goes far deeper. It includes radically different views on the role of religion in a state, on equality for women, on the rights of the LGBTQ plus community, and much more. And the two camps, of course, have radically different views on issues related to Israel's security, borders, relations with the Palestinians. The choice Israel faces between these two camps will say a lot about who the Jewish people are in the 21st century, and whether the values that we espoused for centuries as we lived in the lands of others have real meaning when we live and have power in a state of our own. The choice is going to have a real impact not only on the lives of the Jews who live in Israel, but on the lives of the Jews outside Israel, and the way that generations of Jews to come will relate to that state and to the very concept of being Jewish. At this vital fork in the road, understanding all that is at stake, let us remember the teaching of the Torah portion this week. The choice is in our hands. What we don't have is the luxury of not making a choice. We were commanded then, and we are commanded now to make a choice. I have put before you life and death, blessing and curse. Choose life, that you and your offspring may live. After centuries without power, the Jewish people now have a chance to make these vital choices themselves. It seems appropriate for a people who believes that nothing about the future has been predetermined. I hope these choices will be informed by the values that shape our community, that date precisely back to the time of Moses, values that have guided our lives no matter what countries we lived in or the regimes that we lived under. As we stand at this important crossroads, I hope the Jewish community here and in Israel will choose to recommit in thought and in action to justice, equality, and freedom, as the important moments of choice face us both in this country and in Israel. Choose life, choose justice, choose democracy. And let's make sure that we make it abundantly clear that racists and kahanists like Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich do not represent our values. Their agenda is fundamentally at odds with who we are as a people. Choose life, choose justice, choose democracy. Shabbat shalom, and thank you for welcoming me into your community. And I look forward to talking about all of these issues at the Oneg following services. Thank you again. Shabbat shalom.